Oi oi people, Silky here, and you're listening to the Lifer Musician Podcast, a podcast exploring the minds of creatives who've dedicated their lives to pursuing a career in music. The Lifer Musician Podcast is brought to you by Hookings Management, my artist services company that empowers our fellow DIY musicians to grow a monetised fan base without a record label. We offer a range of services such as online marketing, artist mentorship, release campaign management, videography, photography, graphic and website design, plus tons more useful services that are built to cater for independent musicians on small, self-funded budgets. So yeah, coming into that new year, we had a really positive meeting in the January, like we always do, and sort of mapped out the next 4 years at that point. So this is January 2020. Bit of a fucking 4-year plan, master plan thing, and the sort of immediate focus was to grow the touring business, and then of course the fucking pandemic. So yeah, I mean, we had to, like every artist out there, had to put our touring plans on hold, and we looked at this list and we're like, well, the next thing that we can physically do on this list, which weren't going to be until 2021, was write and record a third album. So we decided to move forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, initially we were, as everyone thought, it was, wasn't it 3 weeks, then 3 weeks, then 3 weeks with the pandemic. And then I remember you ringing me up and you're like, mate, what if this is 3 years? We might not play a show for 2 years. We need to sort it out. We
Keep
need
the momentum going. Yeah.
So then, like you say, it was literally looking down that list and like, what can we do? And so sorry, mate. Writing and recording an album.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a case of like, well, this is shit. This is a fucking terrible situation. But if there are any positives to take, people were online, scrolling, bored. We've built our presence online before any shows. The demand was there because of our online. I always say, you've got to look at your social media channels as like, it's like your own. It's a hybrid of like a reality TV show and music channel, like all rolled into one. And it's a great platform to keep fans engaged and to entertain your audience on. So, that was a positive. If there was any positive to take at the time, the audience were there online and there was an opportunity to grab people's attention.
For sure, yeah.
That wouldn't have been there had it not been for the lockdown situation. So yeah, we decided to write the album and hopefully we'd be able to get in and record it that year if we finished the writing, and we did finish the writing pretty quickly because we were in lockdown and didn't have much else going on. And then at first, we spoke about crowdfunding it, didn't we? And it didn't feel right because of the
situation,
financial stress.
Ethically, we weren't.
It just felt
comfortable
wrong
with it. Were we?
There's the ask economy, and then there's a fucking pandemic where people are out of work and all sorts of shit. Businesses are closing and that, so it just didn't feel right. But then in the summer, furlough money and grants and things started happening, and it just felt like everyone. And
there was a small reopening of.
Bit of positivity was back, and it didn't feel. It felt like by and large, people weren't struggling as much as they had been, or the fear wasn't as rife as what it was. The uncertainty, there was a bit of support out there, and people had a bit of money. So, and people we spoke on social media that we kept the fans in a loop about working on the third record, and the fans were saying, going back to what you were saying earlier about, your market research is your fan base on social media. They'll tell you, and you can ask them. There was a lot of talk of like, well, let us know when the crowdfunder is, because we're in again, guys, which was reassuring. So we decided to launch the crowdfunding in the summer of 2020. Again, a 2-month campaign on Indiegogo. And that was the start of about an 18-month pre-order campaign to get our album into the charts. and we raised about 21 grand in that first 2 months,
which
didn't
was
we?
incredible.
Massive growth. Yeah. So that was really positive. Greatest achievement as a band at that point. So it was awesome to still be making progress, even though the live thing had
adversity or whatever.
The live thing had been taken away, and it was the music industry as a whole was in a bit of a dark place. So the next kind of logistical step, once we realised there was a real demand for this album, and by the way, just to go back to what we said about data earlier, the reason that 21 grand was raised so quickly in a short space of time was, we had the email addresses, phone numbers, postal addresses, Facebook and Instagram data on our core audience, which was a few thousand people at that point. It's about 5,000 odd now, and maybe it was like 4 then. So we sent a text out, to all of, I was saying that half of those people we probably got the phone numbers on, but we definitely got the email address of all of them. We were sending MailChimp email campaigns, ClickSend SMS marketing campaigns out, hitting them with focused Facebook ads to that previously monetized audience. So that's why we were able to get that spike and generate all that income in that short space of time. We had that direct contact with the audience.
And again, going back to the transparency thing, the crowdfunding again is such a useful tool. Yeah. Because the audience can see, or your fans or your customers, whatever you want to call them, can see in real time whereabouts you are. You're not kidding them. You're not sending them a text message and telling them that you've raised 20,000 when you've actually only raised 12,000, or vice versa.
The meters in real time on the site. So it creates a bit of a urgency, doesn't it? So that was cool. And then the next step was like, well, looking at this number, I think I think it was about 850 people backed the campaign. Yeah. And when you think, 2,500 to 3,000 to make the charts, that was good, man. We were nearly like a third of the way there just on the 2-month crowdfunding. Bearing in mind the album was not to be released for another 18 months or 16 months, and whatever.
At this point as well, we knew about how different versions of the album would count as separate units. Yeah. So of those 850 people that pledged, say 100, 200 of them would have bought the album as a CD and as a vinyl, which would count for 2 units. So we were up to nearly 1,000 sales on the back of that crowdfunding campaign before we'd even gone into the studio, which is an amazing feeling. Yeah,
I guess one thing I've just thought of, just as a disclaimer, was some of those sales were international. Overseas, so it wouldn't have counted, but the lion's share were UK pre-orders, weren't they? So looking at those numbers and looking at the stats of the downloads that we'd sold on the Christmas single, we knew we were in the ballpark. It was still a tall order at that point, but we knew that we had a chance at getting in the top 40. So the next sort of logistical step was to contact the official chart company early in the process, to find out what we needed to get in place to make sure our sales were chart eligible, which was your department, mate, wasn't it?
Yeah. So early doors, made a good contact there. Nick at Official Charts Company. Shout out to Nick. Thank you for all your wonderful help and advice throughout, mate. And it was essentially learning what obstacles not to trip over. Yeah. But also learning a great deal about what even major labels were doing to double and triple the sales they were getting from their super fans. Yeah. And just as we'll probably go into this a little bit more, but just as an example early on that Nick gave me was, cassette tapes have had this big rise all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me that I think it's BTS or One Direction or one of these boy bands would release a cassette tape for each member of the band. And so, say it's teenage girls or whatever their core fan base would be, they wouldn't want to prioritise just one member, so they'd end up buying all 5 cassettes so they could have the set on their shelf or whatever. And it was little things like that where at first, because I don't know if anyone's seen the cassettes, but we did a Silky and Top Cat edition of our cassettes, which, you know, at first felt very
audacious. Yeah.
felt audacious. And it looked very sort of, you know, cock rock from the 80s or whatever, Guns N' Roses or something. But by having a contact there and by being bold in asking for help, do you know what I mean? We weren't trying to we weren't isolating ourselves and trying to, you know, do this all ourselves. This is all off our own back. We were contacting these people, and people, as we were starting to tell them about our operation and tell them about the numbers and stuff like that, they were excited, and it felt like they were part of our team going along. And so, yeah, that's just a small example of the sort of information we were getting from the chart company throughout to make sure that we didn't trip over these hurdles. And I mean, I don't know if we want to go into stuff like registration with Kantar, registration with barcoding and stuff like that, which, you know, isn't the most exciting topic. But
shit you have to do when you're DIY.
Shit you have to do. Yeah. And weirdly became like I was saying about the creativity of marketing becoming just as exciting as the album. It would feel like every single time we discovered a new hurdle that we had to jump over, when you did jump over it, it gave us this buzz that was just as exciting as recording a song, wasn't it? Or writing a song. So, yeah, simple things like getting barcoding in place for each individual product, learning what GS1 is as a company, and how you realise then that every retailer in the country uses GS1 for their barcoding systems. Registration with Kantar, who are the company that moderate the sales counts. So at the end of the campaign, like, there could be 18 months worth of work, 3,000 albums sold, and none of them were chart eligible because you didn't register it properly with Kantar.
That was our biggest fear, wasn't it?
The ultimate travesty that you might not recover from that, to be honest.
And you see that happen with
but you do
quite
see it happen.
Successful artists that have gone indie and then not got there.
And the detail started to get ridiculous to the point where we were working out what shade. I mean, me and Bradders he'll attest to this. Working out what shade of black the barcode had to be printed in, so that scanners would work on it properly. And just
because you hear horror stories of the barcode's not working,
and the print quality of the barcodes. I had a man on from Kantar was telling me that a chart campaign had done everything properly, registered everything properly, and then the barcodes were printed blurry on the back of the vinyls, and they weren't able to be scanned in shops. So
shocker.
There's all those sort of things.
Potential banana skins.
Massive banana skins, yeah. And but again, we kind of got. It was because we were learning it all for the first time. It was a real buzz, weren't it?
It was, man. Yeah. And I was just going to say as well, just to go back to the official chart company being really helpful. It's awesome that support is out there for DIY musicians. Because you look at the official charts company and you just think it's this big corporate thing, didn't you? And the fact that Nick sort of nurtured us through the process, and gave us a lot of his time, didn't he? That just shows that there is this brilliant support out there. Not just you expect that to be monopolized with the labels
by the major labels,
but it's out there for independent artists, which is cool. So the next thing was, I guess the most valuable thing that we learned from first approaching Nick was you need a chart approved fulfillment company
so
that will report your units to the official charts
at this
company.
point, what are we in at this point, Silks? We're in sort of mid to late summer of 2020, would you say?
Yeah, it was just after the crowdfunding campaign, which was 2 months in the summer, wasn't it? Yeah, I can't remember the exact
From
months.
the birth of the project to now, we've sold thousands of Candy Streets, hundreds of T-shirts, and all our fulfillment is done in house, isn't it?
Yeah, at your garage, mate.
At my garage, yeah. And we feel like we've got quite a slick operation.
Yeah.
So, we'd have been more than happy to try and fulfill 3,000 vinyls ourselves or whatever it was. But early on learned that there's certain fulfillment companies that have been approved by the official charts company. so that there's obviously no doctoring of the data or anything like that. And so the next step was to get in charge with our fulfillment company, PackSmart, who, have been great again throughout the process, have again told us all the hurdles that we would potentially slip over or fall over. They've managed to nurture us through the process again. And I think one of the major points with that was us being sort of meticulous in what they needed from us to make sure that there was no cock-ups come release week.
Yeah.
And I think that's been our biggest fear throughout. So to the point, I mean, do we go up as far as talking about delivering to PackSmart and stuff like that? We're a little bit we were at the beginning at this point. So we knew we needed a chart approved fulfillment company. We got in touch with PackSmart. They said they were willing to work on the campaign with us, gave them an idea of numbers and when the release week might be. And next step was getting in and recording the bloody thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that was logistically challenging because there was all these lockdowns happening and everything, and people paranoid, understandably, about getting the virus, spreading the virus. So we managed to get in for I think a week in October and a week in December, or maybe it was a week in October, a week in November, and then like a few days in December just to round everything off. That was like quite a really focused session, wasn't it? Throughout, and we were really militant with like the schedule and getting everything, and it was quite, to get everything done in that short space of time. There wasn't a lot of time in the studio to fuck around and watch, old Oasis performances on YouTube and have a Guinness or whatever,
goats screaming on YouTube or whatever.
Do what, sorry, mate?
Goats screaming.
Which
if you haven't seen is unbelievable, but it's for a different podcast probably.
Yeah, fucking hell. So it was fucking intense, but in a good way. Brought the best out in us, and we managed by hook or by crook to get their record recorded in time for Christmas, or just after Christmas, wasn't it? But by the end of the year, in 2020,
we knew we had the bulk of it.
And then the mixing happened in the first quarter of 2021. So then the next thing that's really key, and we touched on it earlier, was the multiple formats on pre-order. So actioning the super fans to purchase more than one copy, creating cool physical products that super fans will want to collect, like what you were speaking about earlier with the tapes and that, and having the different member versions and stuff.
And this is another thing as well, just quickly, where PackSmart, an official charts company, we were wary of this. Like, do those pre-orders count towards chart week? What are the rules to make sure they do count towards chart week? So what's an important lesson that we learnt really early on is that everything we were selling in the crowd, so we knew this before we'd even started the crowdfunding campaign, was that all these pre-orders, as long as they were fulfilled on the week of release by this chart-approved fulfillment company, they would all count towards that first week. So you're basically getting 1 week's sales from 18 months of a pre-order campaign. And, without that, there's no way you could compete. But because we knew that rule, we'd found a way to compete with the big boys in the charts or whatever.
Absolutely, and those multiple formats throughout, and we didn't put them all on sale at the same time. We were quite strategic on doing product launches every month throughout the process. And
making sure that those product launches are of value to the fan, of course, not just releasing another album but with different artwork. We did a limited edition which was on like a coloured vinyl with different artwork. We did the cassettes which had those incredible photos of me and Silky on the front. Did a deluxe edition which was great fun, so we did a couple of like acoustic versions of the tracks. Did a acoustic like a old pub piano version of one of our Suburban Ska Club. So just making sure that every time there was, and then we did box sets as well, which was something else where there's a logistical challenge in that, learning about what box sets are eligible and what box sets aren't eligible, and having to go through those chart rules were imprinted on my eyelids for 18 months. And that's all I used to see when I used to go to bed at night and shut my eyes. But yeah, making sure that there's value in what you can't just expect your fans to buy 10 copies of the same album. Make sure that there's value in what they're buying each time, and hopefully we did that. I feel like we did.
Yeah, we did, man, for sure. So yeah, the next key point was being transparent with the pre-order sales stats with our fans throughout the process, treating the entire pre-order and release week campaign like a crowdfunding campaign. I mean, I've never seen an artist do that. I'm sure there are other fucking DIY warriors out there like ourselves that have done that shit.
Yeah.
And fucking shout out, guys. But I've never seen people be as transparent as we were the entire time about numbers.
Yeah. And again, that comes down to that. There's that fear factor initially, isn't there? You don't
judgment.
You want, and you want people to think you're doing better than you are, and you
Yeah.
don't want it to be cap in hand anyway.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like what we've always sort of gone by was like trying to be as truthful as possible with our fans and our audience. And yeah, we went ahead and released sales figures.
The numbers, which again was like, it was rogue. Yeah, I've not seen anyone do that, but it worked a treat. In the January was when we launched the limited edition vinyl and CD versions. And we had a Facebook group when we'd done the Christmas single, Get Deaf of Guitar Pop, in the Christmas charts, number one. I can't remember. It was in top 40 or number one or something. So we renamed that Get Deaf of Guitar Pop in the album charts. And relaunched that in January, and that had a few thousand members in it from the Christmas campaign.
Yeah.
And we launched that with with the limited edition becoming available, and a sort of 5-step instruction of all the different ways you can support the campaign by pre-ordering the different formats, joining the group, inviting your mates to join the group, etc. And we were transparent with the numbers. We put a post out there. I think it was a video of me saying how many we'd sold at that point. Can't remember what it was, but it was probably just over about 1,000 at that point, 1,200 maybe
something
by
like
January.
That,
So and that was great. That really, the fans, that resonated with them, and we saw a massive spike in sales from that point onwards, really. So that was awesome, and we kept leaking those numbers at least once a month throughout the entire process, from the January to when it come out in September. And we were sending texts out, emails, social media posts all across our social channels, just being totally upfront about the numbers and saying that we'd buy, from the research that we'd done on the chart metrics, we felt as though we'd need to be selling between 2,500 and 3,000. So that was like your crowdfunding goal, your 20k or whatever. That was the equivalent of. And that worked a dream, didn't it? The fans got really behind that and liked the fact that we were being that.
And it felt like it was a real team effort. It felt like we were us against the world kind of mentality for it all, wasn't it?
Definitely. So that was really important. And then another two. Well, there was kind of 3 things we did around this time period as well. Actually, the postcards come a bit later, but we put a video out, so we'll talk about that in a sec, but we put a video out on our social media saying that we were going to ring every single fan that pre-ordered the album, because we had their phone numbers on the orders, most of them, and say a personal thank you. And that, not only was it a great, I mean, we've ended up, we're halfway through that now, aren't we? We're going to do some more calls over Christmas and New Year, because it was a mammoth task in the end, because we sold so many copies. But that was a great thing. As soon as we put that video out there to say that we were going to do that, fans bought because they wanted the phone call. And those conversations that we had, we did it for a few weeks up here, didn't we? It was awesome.
Amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and fans wanted to buy more after talking to us. It weren't a fucking sales pitch call. It was just a thank you. And we just sent them a text after we'd come off the phone saying thanks again for your support. If you can do anything else, these are the other ways in which you can support. And loads of people bought more stuff and got further behind the campaign. So the phone calls were massive. We did an online concert. So we did a free one in December that just went out to our Facebook and YouTube. And that definitely helped because we were plugging the pre-orders all night, generate a lot more pre-orders, and it was a proper production when it, you know, it cost us a couple of grand to put the show on. So yeah, it was real like production value, and it was free for everybody to watch. And of course, the Facebook and YouTube algorithms really favour that live streaming.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of organic reach on that, which was awesome, and that was a good pre-order spike. And then we decided to do another one a few months later as like a pay-per-view, where we would be playing songs from the album for the first time live. And we bundled it in with another version, a deluxe version, the one that you mentioned earlier, with the extra songs on a CD version. And yeah, I think 90% of the ticket sales, we sold about 300, I think, didn't we? And 90% of those sales bought the bundle, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, you know, a few hundred
So we
units.
found, you know, when you're looking into the rules again, ticket bundles are so effective because if you're willing to take something of a hit on what you've spent producing the CD or the vinyl, you can sell them for a lot cheaper than you're allowed to in a box set or something like that. So you can sell them, there's a small uplift, I mean, you have to go and check the rules yourself, but there's a small uplift on the cost of the ticket, which means you can sell the CD for next to nothing alongside the ticket, which means you can almost guarantee anyone that buys a ticket will buy the bundle. So it's a really good way to boost the chart numbers as long as you're willing to take a hit on the production of the album. But again, it's a similar thing to like what we were saying with the free plus shipping. You know, if it costs you, if you've got to that point in the album campaign and you're thinking, God, if we do another 800, we're probably going to get in the charts here. And someone tells you, oh, if you spent 500 quid here, you get 300 extra units on your numbers.
Yeah.
You're probably going to do it at that point.
Yeah.
Because you're too deep in.
But and also, you know, once you're, you know, being that high in the charts and stuff, promoters are going to pay you more.
Yeah,
You're going to get higher up on
we
festival
saw it
bills.
from the beginning as a huge
growth
marketing
opportunity.
exercise. Didn't
Yeah,
we?
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Greetings, listeners. Jake from Decent Mastering here. Really pleased to be involved with a podcast whose ethos aligns with my own, helping independent artists. My Pay What You Feel mastering service offers inclusivity to music creators with tighter budgets, giving quality audio at a price that suits them. To get in contact, send an email to decentmastering@gmail.com or send me a DM on Instagram @decentmastering. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, man. So the pay-per-view concert, the free online concert, and then following on with a pay-per-view with the new material was great. That was another few hundred units. So then, yeah, let's talk about the postcards. That happened a little bit later in the campaign. I think it was like July, August time, maybe.
Yeah, very late on, wasn't it?
Yeah, so on our list of sort of 5,000 odd people that had bought things off us before was a lot of UK postal addresses.
Yeah.
So we got a postcard made up with a picture of the band on it, really cool kind of keepsake for the fans. And got a message on the back printed out that was thanking everybody for supporting our DIY band and informing everybody of how they can help us gate crash the top 40 and where we were at with, you know, the time of writing this postcard. We've cleared X amount of units and this is what we need to do before release week. And we hand signed them all, didn't we? It was a long process that. We were up in this office for a good few
5,000 of them, weren't there?
Yeah, and we had a few bods up here helping us like print the postage labels and get them all sent out.
Stamped up.
It was a long process, but it was cool. It was good fun.
Every post box in Brentwood was filled with these postcards.
Yeah. And we had QR codes on the postcards that took fans straight to the pre-order page where they could grab all the downloads and physical versions. And we saw a really good spike in orders, didn't we, when we done that?
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And the next thing I have on the list here is just to mention about the singles with the accompanying music videos.
Yeah, there's just one more bit I wanted to say there, which I think was done around the same time, was we launched the tour. at that time.
Yeah.
The Pucker Sound, is that later on in the...
Yeah, but it was around the same time, wasn't it? It was like August time, wasn't it? When we
so that was
launched the
another
tour.
one where our sort of obsession with data collection came in really handy again, because we were selling our tickets for the tour. We'd agreed, splits with most of the venues. We're promoting the shows ourselves. We'd agreed splits with most of the venues where we were selling the majority of tickets through our channels, which then gave us the power to sell the tour tickets with either a CD or a vinyl. I think we opted for a vinyl on those Pucker Sounds tour tickets, where we wouldn't have been able to do that again if we were just selling our tickets through Dice. We couldn't have packaged it up like that. But because we didn't, and we were selling them through Shopify, it gave us again the ability to sell them through our Shopify as a bundle, and to sell the vinyls quite cheaply, but within the rules, because they were being bundled with a tour ticket.
Yeah.
And we saw a massive uplift again once we'd launched that. Of I'd say at the initial burst of ticket sales, which you get when you put a tour on sale, I'd say between 40 and 50% of those tickets were being bought as bundles, weren't they?
Yeah.
So again, it was a massive boost to the campaign, taking a bit of a hit on the production of the vinyls. But again, we were at that point of the campaign where we just needed to get it over the line now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a real pivotal moment, wasn't it, the tour launch? Cool. So just a word on like singles and accompanying music videos. So pre-release, we'd put out 3, hadn't we?
Yeah,
we'd done that. So just I think this is important for context. So we did the crowdfunding summer 2020. We didn't actually put any brand new music out until January 2021, which was the Dog Peace Shuffle featuring King Hammond single. We went to Islington and recorded an outdoor video, didn't we? We were all in masks.
We did, all in masks.
And it was we just
freezing
made
cold,
the best of the bad,
wet.
but it would fucking come out great, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Shout out to our man Bradders here.
Yeah.
That was again just being like stubborn, really. Like I think we could have easily retracted and gone, we can't really do music videos right now, but we just looked at what the rules were, checked on the Musicians Union website, and you could record a music video, and
we found a way.
We did it outside, in between takes we were wearing masks, like you say, we found a way. And then we did another single, which was our cover of Rancid's Junkie Man ska version, and we just plotted up in the recording studio with the band.
Ultra low budget number.
Just did a performance piece, but that was great because we'd not done a video in that style before. Then we did Back of a Lorry, which was
so this was just after everything had opened back up, wasn't it? Back of a Lorry, which was obviously it was a bit of a euphoric time for everybody anyway, because it felt like we were sort of moving back towards normality. And so we sort of went for it a little bit more, didn't we? With regards to the music video. So the boot sale was because it's all about selling dodgy geezers that sell knocked off gear, knocked off clothing in Essex. And there's plenty of that over Dunton Boot Sale. So we decided to go over Dunton Boot Sale, which had opened back up, and film over there. And then we wanted to film in the Back of a Lorry a performance piece of the band in Stone Island coats and balaclavas, as it says in the lyrics. And again, this is important as well. It just goes to show that the ask economy thing. So we were like, logistically, it was quite a big shoot, to put all that together. There was quite a lot to it. And we put a thing out. We were trying to hire a lorry and not getting very far with it. It just weren't happening, and we had a few quotes that were like obscene and stuff. So we put something out to our audience and said, we're looking for a lorry to perform in the back of for our video shoot. Can anyone help? And we got a few fans get in touch that were lorry drivers and bits and pieces. And there was one chap, Tony, shout out to Imerex. Nice one.
Who managed a haulage company in Ipswich, I believe, wasn't it? Was it Ipswich?
Felixstowe.
Felixstowe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, dude, we're massive fans of the band. Yeah, we'll sort you out a lorry. You can have the yard for the night. Just give us a shout out in the video and get the logo in it.
Yeah.
So that saved us a lot of money, and what an awesome thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it just goes to show, you know, that's where that Ask economy and your fan base will help you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if we'd have done that, you know, out the old school, out the Yellow Pages, and booked a fucking yard space and hired it and hired a lorry, and it would have cost us thousands. Yeah. So we saved ourselves a lot of money there, and the video was made on about 1,500 quid, but it probably looks like a 5-6 grand music video at least. So but that content, getting that content out throughout the campaign and those fresh music videos. Yeah, we've done a lot of music videos. So since the release, we've put another one out, and then we're filming another one next week, aren't we? So that'll be 5 singles and music videos from Pucker Sounds, and it's just really important.
We probably did 5 from the album before that, and I think 6 from the album before that.
Yeah.
And the Christmas video. So we like to keep a constant stream of videos.
And what's great about those, where, you know, short form content is now more popular than ever with TikTok and Instagram Reels and everything, and people kind of doing that now on their Insta feeds and Facebook feeds and YouTube as well. You've got YouTube Shorts now as well. Is once you have a music video or 5 from that one album campaign, you've got loads of content there that you can recycle and share 20-second clips of, you know, and segments of those videos. You know, you'll get like 10 bits of content from a music video, you know, and so that's cool. Like that helps entertain the fans throughout the process. And
then again, going back to that kind of world building thing, it's like for the whole thing of Pucker Sounds, there's like a bit of a narrative running through it, and we'd feel like it's really important that the music is accompanied by visuals that kind of bring the audience into the world we're sort of trying to create, and it just makes it feel a lot fuller, doesn't it? Really, a lot more realised, I suppose. Than, just a tune on your SoundCloud that's 90 seconds long or something.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure with those first 3, although on the third one things had just started opening up, I don't think we'd played a show at that point.
No.
So music videos were even more important, you know, to put out there, and you know, something to as a way of performing and entertaining the fan base. And then the last one we did, which came out a week after the release week, was number 1 in America, which was again another higher production value video, wasn't it?
Yeah, which was great. And I was just going back to the videos thing as well, is that the video is always the way. I mean, you've worked with plenty of artists since as well, and said that's the way to start, because that's been our recurring shop window, hasn't it? That original Rickety Old Train video is still doing the rounds now. I think we said this earlier. Yeah. But it's a sort of the shop window is welcoming people into your world, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it's a really important thing to have locked down to understand, so people understand what the hell it is you're on about.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then the next point was signing all the physical copies. That was a fucking long job, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, these sound like real first world problems, don't they?
They are, yeah.
But it was. But it's great. I mean, because all this time, you know, we're just monitoring the sales figures, and it's probably worth saying before we talk about signing them, of all the sort of logistical challenges we had with regards to the pandemic, with the production of vinyls and CDs and stuff like that. So when we were first getting in touch with vinyl manufacturers, we were sort of getting sort of cheaper quotes from Europe, and then kind of thinking that might not get shipped from Europe for 2 years. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. There's all sorts of shipping crises going on at the time. Crises? What's the plural of that? I don't know. So we used a high-end manufacturer in the vinyl factory who were great, and, you know, could assure us of a certain manufacturing date. But we were so intent on getting it out within sort of a 6 to 8 week period in the summer that we didn't even get a test press, did we,
No.
for the vinyls?
Yeah.
So we sort of been, obviously we were saying earlier, we've been studying these charts and learned that, you know, middle of August, beginning of September were probably the best times to release an album and give yourself the best chance of getting highest up the charts, because the sales figures are a lot lower during those months. And so we had to push back the so at one point, you know, if we had got a test press, we'd have had to push back the release date to like October or November, wouldn't it? And even though we didn't get one, we had to push it back, but luckily it was still sort of in the little block of release dates that we didn't sort of identified before.
Yeah,
But
which
so-
actually ended up being a fucking competitive week.
It was a
As
competitive
luck would
week,
have it.
yeah.
but never mind. But yeah, man. So yeah, so going on from that, then things like delivering the stock to the fulfillment company and ensuring the stock, you know, there were things that we had to think about. We were like, well, fucking hell, you know, vinyl is scarce anyway.
It's
and
like gold dust at the moment.
yeah,
isn't it?
everyone's having to push their releases back because it's just, you know, there's not the capacity there to fulfill, you know, the demand. So when we've got our vinyls in time for our release, we couldn't believe our fucking luck. Like
Yeah.
there was a point where it looked like it weren't going to happen, and the pressing house, you know, said that they couldn't get the lacquer they needed, whatever the fuck it is, and it was looking a bit hairy for a few days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
It
they managed to
came
turn
through.
it round and get it for us. And then once we had that stock, it was sat in your garage for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Keeping
like,
us up at night.
tens of thousands
Yeah.
worth of vinyl and CDs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was like looking out my window every night with a sniper rifle to make sure no one stole it.
Yeah.
But, just something as simple as storing the vinyl, it's worth so much money. And at that point in the campaign, if anything had have happened to it, not only would we have lost a lot of money if we hadn't have insured it, but we were going to have to push the campaign back by 12 months.
Yeah,
probably.
it just would have fucked everything.
It would have been a year
Yeah.
to get it reproduced. So
Yeah.
it's those at that point in the campaign when we knew we were in with a shout, all of these sort of seemingly small problems become massively heightened, didn't they? And we were like, shitting a
Yeah.
brick, for want of a better term.
Yeah. So we got contents insurance for the stock and everything, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know, which was an important thing to do because, like you say, if anything had happened to that stock whilst it was in transit or in your garage, we'd have
Yeah.
been majorly fucked. Cool. So the next thing I have down is release week stress and general logistical challenges throughout the final process.
Yeah, so the week before we delivered it all up to PackSmart, and just other basics like that are easy to sort of overlook, as stuff like a delivery note. Make sure that they know how much stock is on site, and that there's no disagreements between you and the fulfillment company there, because that's the last thing you need as you've got to this late point in the process, that there's some sort, maybe they've lost stock on site or something like that, and you're having a disagreement about where the stock is, or something as trivial as that, when you're just trying to get this chart campaign over the line. And another thing with that was a really important part, I think, for our sort of sanity at this point was, so I've been doing like the running our sort of fulfillment for the best part of whatever, and we'd been really sort of detailed in sort of maintaining a knowledge of what the sales figures were. Pretty much on every couple of days we were checking in on that. So it was really important for me and Silks to know that our sales figures that we'd been preaching to our audience all this time and that we felt we were at were exactly the same as the ones that PackSmart were picking up from our sales channels.
We had to hammer them really for that, didn't we?
We did have to hammer them, yeah. So it got to a point, so they managed to integrate with our Shopify, but we'd been selling through a platform called ClickFunnels as well, which is one we use a lot, one we started off using, didn't we, as one of the first ones. And obviously the sales from Indiegogo. So it was sales from 3 separate platforms to tie together, and we had to make sure that they were all reported properly to PackSmart, and that they'd picked up all the same amount of sales that we felt we'd made throughout the 18 months. So it was literally to the point of the night before release, inputting our Indiegogo sales into their system and checking that they'd matched up with their employees, the figures that their employees had come up with. And, we were in the ballpark the whole time. But, because everything we'd sold up to that point, the ultimate nightmare is that it's not reported properly to Kantar. And, thankfully it was. But I think that's just a really important point to make, is that the sort of late night, the night before the album actually was released, making sure that all those sales were being picked up by PackSmart was, I think, a really important part of the process, wasn't it?
Because, and a stressful part.
And a stressful part, yeah. But then the stress definitely ebbed away as soon as you realised that the figures you were picking up throughout match up with the figures that they're picking up from your sales channels. And at that point, that I don't know what the actual sales were the night before we went in. I think we were getting on for 3,000 sales, wasn't it? And
was this on the
eve of the release, end of the pre-order campaign? Yeah. So we're just under 3,000, and sort of knowing that as long as they're happy to report all the sales that you believe you've made, and that what they're picking up matches up with what you've picked up, then you're kind of like, right, well, I think we're going to be in it now, because 3,000 sales would have got us in the last 25 weeks. Yeah. So it was kind of like the stress ebbed away at that point. Yeah. But then obviously we'll go into the stress that built up a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, there were two massive pain points for me, and that was, so where we'd been tried to be so watertight within within being in the chart rules, getting the official charts company looped into the emails with the fulfillment company sort of backfired, didn't it, short term? Because the official charts company was saying, no, you can't fulfill anything until release day. Yeah. Whereas the standard practice is actually for the fulfillment company to start fulfilling the pre-orders a couple of days before, so that the fans get their orders pretty much on the release, and all the figures are reported in time for the Sunday night midweeks. Yeah. And
so just to say, the chart week is a Thursday to Thursday week or a Friday to Friday week. Yeah. So the week finishes at midnight Thursday. Yeah. Begins again the following Friday. So the chart numbers you're seeing on that Friday are from the 6 days before that, stopped at midnight on Thursday, the night before. Yeah. So we were really worried that anything would be reported before that midnight hour would go towards the chart week before, and not the one we were on. Yeah. So, which isn't the case, because what the fulfillment, Silks has said, what the fulfillment companies do is to try and make sure that all the fans and all the customers have got their albums on the day of release. They fulfill them before and then report them after that thing. So so
it gave us a bit of a headache, because the fans didn't get their albums around the release date. Most of them had to wait the best part of a week, some of them longer, to get the physicals, which we got a little bit of blowback. The fans were cool, they're always diamonds and bang on, but understandably they were frustrated that they'd been waiting, some of them fucking 18 months, and there was no sign of their records. So that
bought 5 versions and waited 18 months, and then it didn't turn up on the day of release.
Had we not had the official charts looped into the emails, the fulfillment company would have done what they usually do, because they actually fulfilled the Manic Street Preachers that was number 1 that week, and in the midweeks on the Sunday, Manic Street Preachers were number 1. We were nowhere to be seen, even though we had enough sales to be probably fucking at least top 20 in that Sunday midweek. But because they didn't fulfill anything until late in the day on the Friday, because of there being a case of, you know, too many cooks spoiling the broth.
Yeah.
Waiting for answers from official charts, Kantar. We were a bit...
It's an error, but I definitely don't regret that, because the worst possible thing would have been that we lost some of the sales because they were reported for the wrong week.
Yeah,
and that would have been the ultimate nightmare.
Yeah, and for all we knew, like, the fulfillment company may have not been on it, and so we had to make sure that we felt like, as a way of safeguarding that.
Yeah.
Like, we now know they're the #1 record that week. They were fulfilling, they're bang on, but we weren't to know. You know, it was our first fucking rodeo, so. You know, we wanted to have it safeguarding and have the official charts in there, and that was where it backfired short term. Fans not getting their stuff quick enough, and
we were anticipating this big buzz on the Sunday night,
on the Sunday
of the midweeks, when we were going to be, you know, maybe top 30, maybe even top 20.
And so that was a bit of a bummer, and of course at that point, when we didn't show on the Sunday, and Arlo Parks, who just won the Mercury, re-entered and was, I think she was in the top 30, maybe top 20, and we knew we'd sold more than Arlo Parks.
Yeah.
And we were like, fuck, this is like an injustice. Like, we're not getting any airtime on Music Week or the official charts right up. And of course, we were worried at that point that, are they actually going to report this right? If we're not in the midweeks,
right? Have we got the barcodes wrong? All these things start going through your head.
Yeah, like that weekend, you know, when we found out we weren't going to be in the midweeks and the fans weren't getting their stuff as quick as we thought, I was particularly stressed. And I'm sure you were yourself, mate.
So then we had some contact with the fulfillment company where there was like some stock shortages on certain items, which we quickly rectified. And I drove up there on the Tuesday, I think, and delivered these final bits of stock so they could be reported, just so that no stone was left unturned. And as I was sat in the car park at PackSmart, which is up in Coventry, I was up there on my own, looking forward to a Mackey's on the way back down. And I got a text so there's another midweek charts, which Music Weekly do.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten about this.
Yeah, so had I. Yeah. And so I got a text from Nick from the chart company just saying, "Oh, great job, guys, number 19 in the midweeks." And I was like, what?
Top 20, mate.
Yeah. What's he talking about? So, like,
Doves
emailed him
of
back.
worry just flew away at that point, didn't they?
I was like, oh, yeah. And then it was like, oh, thank God for that. Everything's working.
Yeah.
And at number 19, we were like, oh, we've got to remain, haven't we? Even if it sort of plateaus quite a lot.
Yeah.
Surely we'll stay in the top 40 for the Friday.
Definitely.
That was like that was the final, like.
Well, I started to feel relieved at that point.
Yeah,
So
that was it. That was where the relief hit me.
I thought we're getting top 20. We're at least getting top 40, even if it's fucking number 40. We're at 19 now with a couple of days to go.
Yeah.
So that was like we were on the path to
just to know that all that work that had gone in the 18 months building up to it was working. Like, everything had worked. All our logistics we'd pulled it off. Yeah, you know, and our small team of 3 of us.
DIY setup. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like a real moment for me. I remember just sitting in the car park, like,
it was mega.
Fuck for that.
It was mega. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was about as stressful as it got, you know, up until that point when we had that lovely moment when we got the news about the midweeks. And to conclude, the album got to, so it was 19 in the midweeks, number 24 in the main chart, the official albums chart, and it was charted high in all the other stuff, like the independent chart, the vinyl chart, things like that. We made the top 10s in
that was a nice moment as well, when it on the Friday getting the news through. I remember my mate Woodo, somehow, I don't know if Woodo's got an inside knowledge of the charts or so, but he texted me a screenshot of like the official charts website, and it was like, oh, and coming in at number 24, Def Guitar Pop with Pucker Sounds, and I kept refreshing it. Yeah. And it weren't coming up on my phone, and I was like, fucking hell, has he got something wrong here? I didn't want to like celebrate until I knew for sure. And then finally, like about 10 minutes later, the refreshed page came through.
I had a scary moment indoors with my wife, Steph. I couldn't physically bring myself to refresh the phone myself. So she did it, and she hadn't realised that she'd refreshed and it was still last week's chart. And she was like, "Babe, it's not in there."
Oh, mate.
Fucking hell. And then, of course, that was the the new week updated. We were number 24 in the main chart. So the final UK sales numbers were 3,112. So yeah, we smashed our target, and it was quite a competitive release week in the end. We were one behind Sub Pop's new release, which was low at 23. 3 behind Rough Trade's new release, which was Amyl and the Sniffers at 21. Most other weeks we'd have been top 20 with those.
So the following week
sales.
we checked the sales, didn't we? And we'd have been like 17, wouldn't we?
Which is cool. We were just so happy, weren't we, to get that far. Like we would have been happy with number 40, wouldn't we? It was just to get in that top 40.
And like I say, it was almost like the vindication that the process had worked.
Yeah.
Like everything all the logistical challenges we'd faced, the ideas we'd come up with the postcards and all these things, where there was always that feeling in the back of your head, what if we've got the barcodes wrong and all this is for nothing? Like obviously it would never be for nothing.
Yeah.
But it would have been such a blow if any one of those sort of logistical points within the process had been done wrong.
Yeah.
And that had like undone the whole thing. But it was just like a real moment. I think like vindication and relief, basically, that everything had worked that we'd done, and we know how to do it now.
Incredible, mate. Dude, well, mate, I've really, really enjoyed that chat.
Same, Oliver.
We talk about this stuff a lot, don't we, mate? But we've never gone from start to finish of like where we're at so far. So yeah, man, I hope that if you're a music entrepreneur, an independent artist that's listening, that it's giving you a bit of a useful insight. It will inspire some people out there to go and do the same in their careers. It just proves that it can be done DIY. And then no matter how bleak it can sometimes get with your career, and how many times you might think, is this ever going to happen for me? Am I ever going to build a fan base? From where I was at when States of Emotion ended to where we're at now in Death of Guitar Pop with its number 24 album and a successful artist business, it just goes to show that it can quickly turn around if you stick with it. So good luck, guys. And make sure you tune in to the next episode of the Life Musician podcast. Peace.